Early one misty morning, as Carter cast his nets off the coast, he spotted an eerily familiar shape looming in the distance. A boat, long whispered about in local legends, had mysteriously reappeared after vanishing 2 decades ago. Driven by a blend of fear and curiosity, Carter approached, unaware of the discovery that awaited him. As he peered inside the abandoned vessel, his face turned ghostly white, unable to believe what lay before his eyes. Carter had first told himself, "No, this can't be it," refusing to believe that the ship had simply reappeared after 20 years. However, as he slowly approached it, it became clear that he was wrong. This was the ship. There was no doubt about it. He couldn't believe this was really happening, and he was still completely unaware that he was about to make a shocking discovery. As he was getting closer and closer to the ship, he decided he was going to board it. He had to. Now that he had found it, he couldn't just leave without taking a look inside. He had thought about calling the police first, but they would tell him to share the ship's location and instruct him not to go near it. And he didn't like that idea. Later, however, he would come to regret this decision. Carter thought that since he had found the ship, he should also be the first one to look inside. He already imagined the newspaper headline, "Local Fisherman Makes Stunning Discovery," and thought about how this would benefit his business. However, he didn't only want to do it for the fame, he was also genuinely curious about how this ship looked on the inside. He had no idea what was waiting for him in there. Carter had so many questions. What had happened to this ship 20 years ago? Why had no one been able to find it until now and he just randomly bumped into it? How was that even possible? He wondered if he would find any answers, but the idea itself that he was about to explore a missing ship was exciting enough for him. He searched for the best spot to anchor his boat, and after he had almost circled the ship, he finally spotted a ladder. He got closer until he could grab the bottom step, and he lowered his anchor into the water. This was it. He looked up and he was kind of intimidated by how large the ship was, but he wasn't going to let this scare him. Carter took a deep breath and he pulled himself up onto the next step of the ladder. He carefully made his way up, still unaware of the absolute horror he was about to discover inside. One time, he didn't place his foot on the step correctly and it slipped, almost causing him to fall down. It was almost like a warning, telling him to stay away from that ship while it was not too late yet. However, Carter simply held on more tightly to the ladder as he continued to climb his way up. He wasn't going to let anything stop him now, and he was very determined to get inside this ship. He had heard so many horrible stories about what could have happened to it and its crew, and, well, Carter certainly loved a mystery. He wanted to see the truth with his own eyes. He let out a deep sigh as he finally made it over the railing of the ship and climbed onto the deck. He glanced down at his own little boat, and it seemed even smaller from this height. Carter admired the view for a few moments as he gained back his breath, and he looked around, taking in his surroundings on the ship. Where would he look first? He walked around a bit and tried to open the first door that he walked past. He held his breath as he pushed the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. It was locked. Carter found this strange, but it didn't bother him at all. The ship was huge, and he was actually looking forward to exploring it. However, soon his excitement would turn into horror. Carter walked onto the next door, and he smiled when this one did open. There was a loud metal screeching sound as he slowly pushed it open, and it took a while for his eyes to adjust to the darkness. He walked in and slid his hand along the wall, looking for a light switch. He had no idea if it would still work, but he could try. Suddenly, he felt a switch under his fingers and he pushed it, waiting for a light bulb to start flickering somewhere. He flipped the switch a couple of times, but to his disappointment, nothing happened. "Well, it would have been weirder if it did work, I guess," he whispered as he looked around the space he found himself in now. Carter looked around the dark room, his eyes scanning over the mundane objects, chairs, tables, and boxes. Everything seemed untouched by time, yet eerily normal. He brushed his fingers over a dusty tabletop, feeling the grit and years of neglect. It was just a room full of old furniture and forgotten supplies. Realizing the room was merely a storage space, he felt a hint of disappointment clouding his excitement. The mystery of the long-lost ship seemed to be fading with each ordinary discovery. Carter sighed, closing his eyes for a moment before deciding to leave the room. There was nothing here worth his curiosity. Deciding there was nothing of interest here, he left the room to continue his exploration elsewhere on the ship. His steps echoed through the empty corridors as he moved from one room to the next, opening doors and peeking inside, each revealing more mundane scenes. Nothing so far hinted at the ship's mysterious past. Carter opened several more doors on this level of the ship, each revealing nothing more than the last. Empty rooms, broken furniture, and scattered papers were all that greeted him. It was as if the ship was just an ordinary vessel, not one that had vanished for 2 decades. Despite his hopes for excitement on a ship missing for 20 years, he found nothing but ordinary spaces. Each room seemed to whisper of a life long paused, waiting to resume or to be discovered. Little did he know that the excitement was yet to come, hidden away from his current path. While investigating another unremarkable room, Carter was startled by a metallic screeching noise from outside. It pierced the silence abruptly, making him jump. He stood frozen for a moment, the sound echoing in his ears. The tranquility of the ship was shattered, leaving Carter alert and slightly unnerved as he moved towards the door to investigate the source of the noise. His heart raced as he pondered the possibility of another person's presence on the ship with him. The thought was chilling yet thrilling, making his pulse quicken. He gripped the door handle tightly, his other hand balled into a fist at his side. Carter took a deep breath, preparing to face whatever was outside that had disturbed the eerie calm of the ship. With cautious steps, Carter moved toward the door, peering outside, expecting to confront whoever or whatever made the noise. His eyes darted around, searching for any sign of movement on the lifeless ship. The cool sea air brushed against his face as he stepped out, his senses on high alert for any further disturbances. The silent, lifeless ship offered no clues, leaving Carter to wonder if he had imagined the sound. He scanned the horizon and the ship's deck, but there was nothing, no one in sight. It seemed as though the ship itself was playing tricks on him, with its creaks and groans under the weight of years. Convincing himself it was just a bird or his imagination, he decided to press on with his exploration. Shrugging off the uneasy feeling, Carter turned back inside, determined to uncover more of the ship's secrets. His footsteps echoed on the metal floors as he made his way up to the first floor where the guest suites were located, ready for more discoveries. Feeling an uneasy atmosphere, Carter ascended to the first floor where the guest suites were located. Each step seemed to creak louder than the last, amplifying the silence around him. The hallway stretched before him, doors lining either side, each one a barrier to a story left behind. He paused, took a breath, and pushed forward, his curiosity driving him deeper into the forgotten lives aboard the vessel. Despite his apprehension, curiosity overpowered him, compelling him to enter one of the rooms, eager for a story to tell. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the doorknob, turning it with a resonant click. The door swung open slowly, revealing the dim outlines of furniture shrouded in shadows. Carter stepped inside, his eyes adjusting to the limited light, searching for clues to the ship's mysterious past. Upon opening a suite door, Carter gasped at the sight, the first real indication that people had once lived here. The room looked as if it had been left in a rush, a coffee cup on a side table, a book laid open, face down. It felt like walking into a frozen moment of time, the air thick with the presence of its last occupants. The room was in disarray, an unmade bed, clothes scattered about, personal items left in haste. He moved carefully, noting every detail, the half-packed suitcase, a child's toy lying forgotten on the floor. It was a poignant reminder of the suddenness with which the ship's journey had ended, leaving behind only echoes of its passengers. The unease grew as he checked other suites, finding similar scenes of abrupt departure, sparking countless questions in his mind. Each room told a story of interrupted lives, of moments cut short. Carter felt a growing connection to these ghostly remnants, his mind racing with possibilities about what might have caused such a hasty evacuation from this now silent ship. The discovery made Carter increasingly curious about the fate of the passengers and crew. As he wandered through the hallways, his mind buzzed with questions about their sudden disappearance. What could compel an entire ship's company to leave like this? His footsteps echoed in the empty corridor as he made his way to the next floor, driven by a growing need to find answers. He pondered what could have caused such a hurried escape, where these people had gone, and what had become of them. Each new room brought more signs of abrupt departures and interrupted lives. A spilled vase, a dropped pair of glasses. Each clue whispered a story of panic and haste. Carter's heart felt heavy as he opened the door to another room, hoping for answers. Upon entering a room on the next floor, Carter was met with a sight that drained the color from his face. The room was unlike the others, its contents unsettlingly preserved. A tableau of personal effects lay scattered as if their owners might return at any moment to claim them. Carter's eyes widened in shock, his breath catching in his throat. For a moment, he stood frozen, hand clamped over his mouth to stifle a scream, his heart pounding fiercely. The air felt thick, his mind raced with dreadful possibilities. What had happened here? He couldn't tear his eyes away from the scene before him, each second stretching longer than the last as he grappled with the reality of the room.